Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because I'm a glutton for punishment and I enjoy talking to people on the internet. So without further ado, we got to talk about the title sponsor of the podcast, Go Fast, Don't Suck. They are making a lot of things happen. They've got their awesome match banners you see at matches now. They've do a bunch of jerseys, the dry fire decals, the memes on the internet that are hurtfully true. Check them out, gofastdon'tsuck.net, and tell them Manny sent you. But without further ado, we got to get to the real meat and potatoes of why we're here. We're sitting down with Mr. Alex Acosta. Alex, how you doing today, sir?
Good man. How are you this evening?
Doing fantastic, and thanks for accepting my invite. It seems like now I'm doing a round robin of Texas.
Yeah, man. It's I actually got a chance to listen to you talk to Cameron this morning, so it was good. It was good. Happy to be here.
Yep. I mean, I think you've been on my list because I'm friends with Brian Levy, so your name comes up every once in a while. So it's like I talked to Cameron and I'm like, I need to do a round robin trip of, Texas. So I talked to Cameron, but I talked to Emmett the other day, talking to you. So we're making our rounds.
Awesome. Awesome.
But yeah, so Alex, for people who don't know you, because you're probably like most people don't know who you are, but who are you and how did you get into shooting?
Sure. So Alex Acosta, got started shooting because I started carrying. Started carrying and started running those popular drills that you can find, kind of posted all over the internet, like your the 5x5s and all like the old school standards, and just it felt like it was too easy to hit kind of the highest level of all those standards. And I said, I'm very data driven, so I said there's got to be a better way to kind of assess performance, and went out to a IDPA match and wasn't all too impressed by that. And I was definitely in the camp of this is going to get me killed in the streets. So I didn't come back to it for a while and try to find other means to kind of build and assess. And then later came back to USPSA, and that I remember that USPSA match and seeing the shooters, and I was like, man, there are levels to this, and what I'm seeing is kind of what I want to aspire to, and I like being kind of the guy that chases the shark. So that's what got me headfirst into practical shooting, and I've been hunting for a good long while before I ever got into practical pistol.
Fair enough. So when you started, you started carrying and you've been doing these, pistol standards. What was that first firearm?
Beretta 92, 92. It's just a standard 92, man. It's what I started on. I still have that pistol, and a couple more 92s have since joined the safe.
Oh, fair enough. It's honestly a good pistol. An odd one to kind of start out with, but I mean, people have started out with worse, right?
Yeah, I imagine they have. I imagine they have. There's definitely some movies that influence that, but you know, I ended up loving it and still do love the platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you started IDPA, and then went into USPSA after you realized that IDPA wears vests and it's silly.
I don't know if it had anything to do with the vest or anything like that. It was more at the time, I was definitely in this is not an appropriate display of what tactics are supposed to be. And I was, I didn't have the wherewithal to disassociate component skill development versus kind of what is being tested in, IDPA. And so young naive Alex was like, no, this is ridiculous. So I'm not going to do this. So I just kind of foregoed all competition for, I think almost 2 years before I came back and uh, shot that USPSA match here in the Austin area.
hmm Now, when you got into USPSA, did you go into production or
Started in
surface?
production. Yeah, it ended up being the club here, Austin Rifle Club, or excuse me, Austin Practical Shooter Club. We shoot at ARC. There was a very strong core group of production shooters. Tim Myers, guy that runs the Ben Stagger Pro Shop, Alan Elam, and then there's obviously Roy Stedman out there, guy shot on multiple world teams, and just seeing those guys shoot and what I wanted to shoot what they were shooting so I could be competing it, against them, was kind of what drove that decision.
Hmm. So when you got into the sport, do you remember what your initial classification was?
Yeah, I classified as a D class. I went to my first major as a C class shooter. But yeah, initialed as a D, and as D, I think.
Hmm. Fair enough. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that Tim owns the pro shop, and we just slapped Ben's name on it to make sales.
Hmm. Yep, yep. Um, but I was very. I, I told all those guys early on, like I love criticism, and I just told them all, including Levy when we started shooting together. It's like, man, anything you see, don't uh, uh, you don't have to be, kind of dance around criticism with me. Give me everything because I like knowing what's out there and what can help make me, improve. So it was awesome to be around and still be around, an awesome body of shooters.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, how long did it seem like you were shooting production before you switched divisions?
I shot prod for two and a half two and a half years. And the only reason I switched is because people started to stop shooting prod.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then, and what years were that? If you remember?
Uh, that was 18 to like mid 21.
Okay. And then, did you jump on the Carry Optics bandwagon like everybody else?
I sure did. Yeah, I sure did. Everyone started switching over. And it was more about having bars to measure against, right? Like
Hmm.
no longer having that core group to service kind of the measuring stick locally. I said, well, I need to jump into where everyone else is going, so I continue to have something to measure from. So it was carry optics.
Hmm. Did you stick with the Beretta platform when you went to Carry Optics, or did you have to switch to something else?
No, I actually switched. It was probably a year in. I switched from at the time, a Wilson 92, which was the Briggs slide. Switched from that guy to a Shadow 2 and then stuck with the Shadow 2s there forward.
Hmm. Now, did you see a significant advantage, or that they were just more prominent within our sport?
Um, at the time, I definitely didn't have the skill level to say that there was an advantage to running the Shadow. Um, it was more just they were becoming more prominent. It seemed very easy to tune them up. Cajun had and still has obviously their pro upgrade packs. So it was more just it seemed like people were migrating to, and then just putting one in your hand or in my hand, it felt even better in my hand than the Bretta did. So I was like, this is this is what I'm gonna roll with.
Hmm. Did it seem like there was a large learning curve going from the Beretta to the Shadow 2, or?
I don't really believe that there was, other than just learning the new index. But that didn't really take a heck of a lot of time. So no, there definitely wasn't. And there was no love lost. Still isn't either. On the Bretta platform is just the way that shadow frame fits my hand is just
Hmm.
perfect. Yeah.
Fair enough. And then eventually it looked like you moved over to open, like most degenerates, like they just want to spend all their money in the sport.
Yeah. It was kind of I'm going to say a pretty random decision. I want to say Emmett was the first one that had posed the question. It was either Emmett or Tony. I'm not really sure. One of them started posing the question. Obviously, we've been getting, when I say pressure, I'm not really peer. That's a lie. I can't be peer pressured. But the whole Dallas crew also was like, when are y'all gonna start shooting open and competing against us like this? Create this Texas powerhouse, whatever. And shooting carry optics. The three of us, Tony, Evan, and I, were just like, we just want to go faster, and obviously, open is the next step forward and going faster. At least logically, you see people like Khalil running, iron sights like madmen, Joey Sauerland, right? But anyways, that was kind of what motivated that decision. So yeah, open we went, and picked up a couple checkmates and just haven't looked back.
Hmm. Fair enough. Now, when you say Tony, you mean Tony Wong?
Yep, Mr. Tony Wong.
Okay. Yeah, with all his crazy. It's been a minute since I've seen anything from Tony, but he came up with some crazy ideas, like fitting the sig mags in a checkmate
Yep.
and two holsters and
The guy's the problem solver, engineer at heart. He makes things work. It's a you often look at him like things he does. It's like that's just insane, but then it works, and he's able to become highly proficient across all these things. So it's pretty awesome.
oh yeah, absolutely. I love talking to Tony. His mentality on shooting is amazing.
Yes, yeah.
But so yep, you moved over to the checkmates. Now, do you only shoot open now, or will you dabble in carry optics every once in a while?
No, for right now, only shooting open. We had thought about well, we had registered for CO Nats, but just decided we have no desire right now to pick those guns up, being that we're registered for open Nats. Very singular focus right now on optimizing performance on the open gun for sure.
Hmm.
Shot World Pistol Shoot, the World Pistol Shootout, and so got to shoot both guns back to back. One day uh, the Shadow 2, and then next day the Checkmate. That was definitely interesting. But yeah, for right now, focus is the open gun.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's so crazy. I don't know. You've been shooting open a little bit longer than I have, but there's definitely a different mentality of shooting open than it is carry optics, it seems.
Yeah, I don't. Uh, I guess fully switched over December, January. So beginning of this year, and yeah, the mentality in terms of you still need to collect obviously a high percentage of points because the best of the best are doing that. Like Siler and the rest of the guys at the top. It's just you have to add in a new layer of aggression on the move, but still be kind of parting that out such that you're putting aggression where it makes sense. That it's not just like you're globally turning that volume knob up, but you're definitely finding the places where it needs to be dialed up because otherwise you're going to just be losing time on the ground. So it's been an interesting new learning experience.
Hmm. With switching to open, how have you been frustrated yet with your equipment failing yet?
Haven't had a single failure.
There you
I,
go.
it's become a we all like all of us checkmate kids. We like to mess around with the 2011 guys. Like, hey, every time we see you messing up, well, I can give you a check. You can come play with a checkmate. I guarantee it'll work. But like that's a whole different side of the game, which is learning how to maintain your equipment, right? And whether it's how you're loading and what your QC is on the loads and how you're maintaining what your maintenance schedule is on the guns. Like it's a whole different, I think, art that comes with like, hey, if you're going to compete in these divisions, it's also your responsibility to pick up on all those new kind of component skills because that's all a reflection of you and your preparation, right?
Hmm.
So I definitely put the time into figuring out how to make these things. We all did, right? Just did a lot of research and how do we make these things run and keep them running. And yeah, it's been great so far.
Yeah. Now, hmm. Did you? Oh, this is. I guess this was my question. Did you actually get your barrel reamed out?
Yes, definitely did. We shot. I was loading them, and then I think for the first 2 months before I made that decision, and just having the additional flexibility on that OAL reduced I just thought of it as reducing that incident rate of error. Take that word from Mr. Matt Little. I love that phrase. But that incident rate of error from having that SIP chamber to now the SAMI chamber, yeah, no issues, and gives me a lot more comfort in terms of like the pressure bands that we're loading to on 9 major.
Yeah. And I think it's smart. It's cheap insurance, so you can, if depending on if you're using, once fired brass, Starline new brass or range pickup brass, like those
Yeah,
OALs will be dramatically different, even though you have your press set up perfectly.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, did you do? It's been a long day. I guess I can already tell my tongue's already tied, but it's okay. Um, have you had any parts breakage in yours that caused any failures, or?
Surprisingly not yet. Like I thought that the that the pin that would normally breaks on the shadow would have served as that fusible part in the linkage system already, but haven't had a single failure. On the match gun, I replaced it before I go to the match, but I haven't yet replaced it on the backup gun, and that's very. I don't know how that makes sense to me because on the shadows, I know like to the thousand when that thing is going to break. So kind of still waiting to see when the backup gun that decides to fail on me, and start using that as a reference point to track forward. But no, not yet. No
Hmm.
issues yet.
Fair enough. Hmm, now you're saying, so everybody knows what a Shadow Two's trigger return spring or whatever is going to break, or the slide stop pin or
Yeah,
whatever
it slides
name
off
you.
pin.
Now, I'm assuming you still dry fire the same amount as if you with your open gun as if you did your carry optics gun.
Yes,
So it's kind of interesting how one breaks a lot faster than the other.
it
Hmm.
is. Yeah, very surprising to me that apparently the schedule is different on the open gun. Just again, limited set of data, but yeah, it definitely seems to be outpacing or outlasting the pin on the shadows.
Yeah. But which is probably good because you're going to nationals soon, so you'll probably change it anyways, regardless, because you're
Yes,
going to go
definitely
now.
will. Yeah, definitely will.
Right now, I stalked you on USPSA. I found your GM and carry optics. How long did it take you to make GM and carry optics?
Uh, as long as it took me to shoot 6 matches, I think.
Oh, there you go.
Um, yeah, CO was interesting. I think I should start shooting it when the stats were still new on on the classifier the hit factors. I definitely don't feel like that's an earned title. Um, but by the way the data was when I was shooting it, got the classification. But I feel like production and open, where I stand in open are like true reflections of current skill set.
Hmm. Which is fair enough, and it's nice to hear that you say that because some people can run up a classification and that yet not perform at that percentage at a major match, and then they get all
Yeah.
disheartened with themselves. It's like it's funny enough. I was at a local match yesterday, and my buddy's like, "I need only an XYZ percentage to bump." I'm like, "So what? You can be at the bottom of that class too."
Yeah, exactly. If it was I mean, the way that like Jay Slater is doing stats, from that the ELO based system he has, like that type of a meta makes all the sense in the world to me. As far as maintaining a classification or just a standing of where shooters are, like that type of system makes sense to me. Like the whole meta around, I want to be blah 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 percentage as it currently stands is kind of bizarre,
Hmm.
but to each their own. Gives people
Fair.
things to shoot for.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, and not everyone's gonna go shoot at nationals, and they're just gonna shoot their club
Yeah,
matches, and they don't really care about how they
exactly.
truly rank up. So, what current goals do you have for practical shooting?
Um, Goals right now are definitely around. Uh, well, there's kind of two sides to it. One, which is match based and performance and outcome based, which is definitely, when the big dogs are showing up at matches, and at this point, my the training partners are in that data set of who I consider big dogs. It's want to shoot, 95% or better. Now is kind of what that goal line is. So from an outcomes perspective, it's that, and then on the training side, it's having behaviors that are supporting that goal. So making sure that from a principles and processes, what I'm doing is supporting that such that I'm maintaining a realistic expectation. Like if you're going to have a performance-based goal, for me, it's like, well, we got to have behaviors that are supporting that, and so have like that North Star and just making sure that I'm doing things both on the on the range and live fire, and then also in dry fire to support that as a achievable and attainable outcome.
Hmm. And I find that's a very good, reasonable goal for yourself as well. It's you always want to do your best, but you also got to be realistic with yourself with what kind of level of performance and ambition or training you put into something.
Yeah,
It's like it's this. I'm assuming it's a squat rack behind you.
yeah. My girlfriend's been been working late since she's in kind of deep focus mode inside the house, so not disturbing her outside here in the garage.
Right. So I mean, at least that, but you know your metrics with with weightlifting, right? You've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
and that's where it's kind of a is another good thing too. Is is physical fitness and physical training. Do you find that being more physically fit helps you on the range last longer, have more endurance, and
Oh
affects
yeah,
your
there's
stage scores?
100%. Like there's no question. It gives me like a degree of X factor to where, not that we have a lot of examples of this, but anytime that I can put high power down on the ground, I know that there's few people out there that are going to be able to gain time on me in those spaces. Obviously, it's a very limited set of when those are, where those cases are true. But like Caribbean Open, there was a couple stages that were just like drag races, and it's like cool. Like I know that I could shoot decently fast, and I'm going to get from A to B faster than just about anyone out there. So I have high expectations on those kinds of stages when I see those kinds of like discrete skill requirements. But also, here in the Texas heat, right, we've been averaging like 105 plus here past almost the whole past week. Like I find it shooting in those kinds of conditions that I have a leg up just because I know that I'm not going to fatigue. Just being able to kind of be rely on the body, my body to do what I want it to until the day's done. Like I definitely find that can sometimes be, a weapon in the toolbox for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely nice, the heat's not going to get to you too bad, but the benefits of those rare cases are definitely helpful when you can able to put that power to the ground and just boogie.
Yep,
But
for sure, man.
like so well, I guess I'm going to sidetrack. What got you into lifting in the first place?
So I swam all my life, swam at a very high level, and that's what introduced me to kind of dry land training. And for a long time, like when I graduated high school, I was 6 foot tall, same as I am now. I weighed south of 155 pounds, so I was tiny. And like at the time, when you're in the pool against guys that have similar technique quality as you, and they start to layer on now kind of strength adaptations, they're going to be able to do things and have outcomes that I wasn't able to achieve. And so I started training back then so that I wouldn't, we were playing on equal playing ground. And ever since then, it's just kind of been a part of what I do. And I've always had some kind of a sport, some kind of a hobby that, required fitness at some level. And so I just always kept it up as a result of that.
Well, funny enough, I swam through high school, but it was funny enough. My coach believed in no like dry training. There was no lifting. Like he was like, you stay out of the gym. You stay out of the weight room. Just get in this pool. And I'm like, okay,
Really?
yeah. He was an interesting cat. Now, what was your specialties? Were you distance? Sprinter? Specialty stroke?
Two and 500-meter breaststroke. I do individual medley if they needed me to, but breaststroke was my jam.
See, that's funny. I was breaststroke is where it's at because most people
And
don't
there you
know how
go.
to do. See, but when you get that distance part, no, thank you. I don't like distance.
Yeah. 200 was the fun one. 500, was a different train up for that, and it's kind of the same. We ran track and cross country. Coaches made us run track and cross country as well, and I loved track and I hated cross country.
Hmm.
Just distance and pacing. It's not really my thing.
Right. Yeah. But the nice thing, I guess, is if you do those sports, at least then when it comes time to hit the pool, you're already toned and you're not like, hey, we got to catch up in like the first 2 weeks of,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a lot of, even being a swimmer is a lot of dedication because you're in the pool for hours and you have nothing but the monotony in your brain.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like it definitely gives you that ability uh to put the work in because it's kind of like you against you in the pool. It's obviously fun to chase people when you got multiple people in a lane, but it's really at the end of the day, it's you against you because you're coming back, and oftentimes you're just looking, staring up at that clock and seeing what's the delta between when you arrived and when you got to go next. And so it's like, do I want to put more work in on this next rep so I got more rest? And what's that going to do to me on all the subsequent reps in that set? So it's yeah, the give and take is fun.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wish I kind of stay stuck in it after high school, but I wish I had my pool body back.
Yeah, man, it's lots of level of fitness that hopefully we'll get back at some point in time. But I always tell people it's unlike anything else. Like being swim, the level of fitness that swimmers achieve is obviously it's like full body. You're just able to do work for an inordinate amount of period of time, which is great.
Yeah, and
I wish
then
I had a
the
lap pool close to me. I'd be swimming all the damn time, but I don't.
I no, I see there's our local gym has a lap swimming pool, and I'm like, I ain't getting in you. Nope. Nope. Well, and the problem is when I go to the gym is all the old people are there, and it's like no. You like it was surprisingly at like 4:35 in the morning. It's like, aren't you people supposed to be asleep?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, I do miss the days of being able to carbo load and just you swim off all the extra calories you were able to intake, and then you're like, oh, I can't eat like that anymore.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a different level of hunger, and you're burning a wild amount of calories back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so lifting, I guess we'll take it back to lifting. Uh, is there? Uh, did you just try to do all the major, lifts at some point throughout your weekly routines?
Yeah, so I've always been one to follow programs. I'm, I kind of have to be coached. I'm being accountable to a coach uh, is just kind of part of what I seem to require.
Hmm.
So I've always had someone. One of my real close buddies owns a gym here in town called Atomic Athlete. Did that for better part of a year and a half until my work schedule got too crazy, and then didn't want to have an excuse for not working out. So that's when I put the gym in the garage. And yeah, I mean, I did kind of follow powerlifting schedule for a while and really just wanted to hit specific numbers. Wanted my total to be a specific number set and achieve that. And so now we're kind of toning it back and just upping the reps and making sure that muscle mass stays where I want it to be, and hit squat bench dead multiple times a week. But it's following programming, like whether it's juggernaut or um, now Micro Zertel and RP strength, right? Like always follow people that this is their PhDs in the thing, and they're not just some Yahoo coming up with programs on a random blog.
Right. Yeah. Definitely use their expertise instead of the random shit we find on the internet.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
Yeah.
lean into experts in everything I do. That's for damn sure.
Right. So that's a good segue into the next question. Have you taken any practical shooting classes?
Oh yeah. Started out real heavy, kind of when I was getting started. A lot of my foundational mentality and still how I think about kind of the discrete skill of kind of holding a gun and shooting came from uh, TPC and kind of that school that Ron Avery founded, and I've since worked with Ben multiple times. Was on PSTG for 2 years and was submitting videos multiple times a week. Like yeah, I've definitely gone through kind of a couple guys, but now like my my core the core of what I come from is kind of like that split there is both TBC and Ben. They've had the strongest influence on how I've developed, and then also Kimmy, like Juancic. He when I was in PSTG, he was the one that responded to the vast majority of uh, you know, what I post and provide criticism, and uh, the way he thinks about things is just completely different if, in terms of like explanation of not philosophy, just how he explains things is so different from Ben. It's the same, it's a very similar message, but just in a different way. So when you get multiple people telling you similar concepts, but they're explaining it different, like just having those different rationalizations helps me to then apply and execute and test. Yeah, I've definitely taken multiple hundreds of you know probably hundreds of hours of class to kind of form that base foundation of
Hmm.
skill.
Very good. Yeah, and I think that's a smart thing to do is be able to go and be able to accept that knowledge and not be, there's a lot of people in this sport or even life in general who are stuck in their ways and they think they're doing everything right and aren't willing to accept that they could learn something.
Yeah, definitely,
Hmm. So,
definitely.
yeah, so I guess we'll segue a little bit with go back to the body lifting and the the nutrition and stuff. How does your match day nutrition, say at a major match, differ than your day to day nutrition at home?
Um, it actually is wildly different. Match day, like if we're talking about match day, really, I don't. I just make sure that I'm getting carbs in me, uh, like a steady state of carbs. Obviously, hydration is super important, and making sure you're getting appropriate amount of salt. Bless you, by the way. Appropriate amount of salt. But I really don't eat. Like if I eat, I feel like my energy levels kind of come down as maybe I'm digesting or whatever. And so yeah, for me, it's just make sure I eat very well the day before. Uh, I'll make sure I stack protein that night before, and then the morning of something super light, and then I'm just carrying carbs through the day, and it's like I'm definitely one of those guys that's like angry as I get hungrier, and so that also becomes like a channel or a power reserve that I can channel if I want to. Uh, but yeah, I really don't eat or snack a heck of a whole lot during match day.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I feel like I shoot my best like when I haven't eaten anything in the morning, purely because like you do the hydration, make sure you're okay on that end, but it's like don't try to eat. I mean, I don't try to eat anything the morning of a big match, just purely because I don't want something heavy on me for some reason.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely.
Mm.
Like I've definitely made the mistake of eating real heavy, the day before, but I should have, or excuse me, the morning of, but I should have known. Like even what I do now is no different than what I did when I swam, right? Like it's when I eat heavy the morning of, I just feel slower. It takes me longer to kind of get my body fully turned on. So yeah, uh,
Yeah, yeah, and you don't want that. You want to be able to fire on all cylinders at any given time in the morning of the match.
yep, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
when you're coming up to like a major match, does your training in live fire, dry fire ramp up at all?
Dry fire absolutely ramps up. Live fire has been more difficult for me as of late. My work travel schedule has been higher than it ever has been, so that kind of keeps me bound to specific hours, and obviously also given my girlfriend the time that she deserves from me. So um, it's I'm able to get dry fire in easily, and then live fire we definitely ramp up collectively, but it's certainly not uh, a immense uplift on the live fire. Kind of the strategy going into the live fire sessions and when how we approach them changes, so we make more effective use of those sessions. It's more kind of discreetly targeted in terms of what we're looking to do, but the volume doesn't necessarily change dramatically.
Hmm. Right. Fair enough. And that's I guess everyone's a little bit different too on that. Like if they ramp up with a lot of rounds or a lot more dry fire, but keeping that work life, hobby balance is super important too because you don't want to burn out or make anyone mad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now that's good. Now, major matches, you said like earlier in this conversation, you said you shot the World Pistol Shootout. You shot Area 4 Caribbean Open
Yep.
this year. What's still left on the docket to shoot?
Area 3 and nationals.
Okay.
Oh, and uh, the Sooner State Showdown, I think is what it's called.
The Oklahoma match.
Oklahoma match, yeah, where it's like one day regular match and the second day is like uh, a knockout match essentially. Yeah, but it's Oklahoma.
Okay. I guess I haven't heard about that second part, so I'll have to look that up. But out of the matches you've shot, the major matches you've shot so far, which one was your favorite?
Like since I started shooting
Just this year.
this year, Caribbean and Dragons, like those are whether it's assess from stage quality or how they ran. And Dragon this year was kind of cluster, like just based on weather, right? Like weather and weather then cause staff to be like, man, this is crazy. I'm out, right? But it still managed to be a kind of one of the premier matches I've ever shot in Caribbean. The second year I shot that, it's just awesome. Like that'll be a no matter what, making that every year match. Dragons is too. Like those are the only two that are just like 100% always going to make those matches.
Hmm. Well, and it's nice because you can always sell the Caribbean Open as a vacation.
Exactly. Exactly. Odessa's not like, hey, let's go see this dust wind bowl thing. It's nice. Doesn't have that same allure.
Yeah, we're just on the edge of the oil field. It's great. Just don't get stranded out here. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Now, so you went to Dragons Cup, the past 2 years. Did you feel that the stages have evolved from year to year or about the same level?
Uh, I'd say from a staged quality, same level. This year, that I think the only really thing that I noted that was super different was there's a lot more medium long course. I mean, everything was medium long course basically, which is great. I don't really have any qualms over that. That's really the only difference that I noted there. It's just it seems like the quality that they require out of what they build is only one level, and they'll accept nothing else. So it's pretty awesome being able to show up to that knowing that you're gonna have just top tier stage quality.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely important in a match, and that's how you get a reputation like they have now. I mean, that match sells out in less than like 5 minutes, I want to say,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good.
deserved. I mean, it's very deserved. It's deserved.
Hmm. But and then I do tell other like match organizers like you can't compare yourself essentially to Dragons Cup because Marco can take a loss on that match purely because he'll write it off. And if
I
your
mean,
goal is to make money, you can't do all the
it,
bells and whistles.
sure, but it's also just again very clear that both him and Billy have that they have one kind of level of what they will accept as a stage on the ground. And that's just all. I say Caribbean's the same, very different flavors, right? But going into both those matches that you are getting a premier level event.
Oh yeah, and that's the cool thing, And then what the Caribbean has their shoot off every at the end of the match, and you can go shoot it
Yeah,
out against the top in your division.
yeah.
I'm assuming you're able to participate in the shoot offs for open.
I missed Caribbean. I missed it by one spot. I kind of had a that was I went into that match. It was the first major, obviously, with the open gun, and I also didn't have a heck of a lot of time on it, and so I was doing wacky things like unloaded starts. I'd have the safety on, and I'd insert the mag. I'd be like, "Why the heck can't I rack this gun?" So there were still things that were going on there that took me out of that one position, and I could have been included there.
Hmm. But either way, it was still fun to watch, and you get to
Oh,
experience it.
absolutely!
And
It was a blast. It was a blast. Like and awesome to be a spectator. Like super high crowd energy. They hype it up. Yeah, it's great. Absolutely awesome.
hmm yeah, and it's definitely got to be something that's good for. Could be either great for the mental game to be able to control yourself, or very bad if you don't have a good, strong mental game. Let the crowd hype you up, and then you just
Yeah, yeah,
burn.
definitely, definitely, definitely.
Fair enough. Pull up. Where's my questions? They disappeared again. Oh. So out of the matches you've got Nationals, the Sooner, and Area 3. Um, what kind of made you decide to shoot? Area 3 is relatively far away from you. What made you decide to go to shoot Area 3 this year?
The big boys are showing up out there. Use that as a tune-up for nationals, and you got Siler out there. Eden's going to be out there, and the Dallas crew's going to be out there. And then can't remember names, but I know that when we're looking at that roster, there's a good list of heavy hitters that are showing up to that match. And so that again, we were we were signed up for the Southwest Shootout, which I think was going to be the first year for that match in Clovis, New Mexico. Ace Bowles was running that. but they had a storm event that caused them to have to cancel that. And once that canceled, we're like, what else can we shoot? And uh, Area 3 had openings, so we're like, all right, we're gonna put that on the schedule then.
Oh, and that's probably very smart. You get your tune up and get to really see what your statistics are against all the big heavy hitters.
Yeah,
See what you need to see, and then you can adjust and change your training and workouts, and plan for nationals in September.
exactly.
Now, you went to nationals last year. What, for Carry Optics? I'm assuming in Talladega.
No, I did not shoot nationals at all last year. I was actually gonna. My plan was to shoot Iron Sight nationals last year, but work, a work event, just kind of stepped in there, and I uh, wasn't able to make it up.
Yeah. Darn work that pays us to go do our hobby. How dare you get in the way of
Yeah,
my hobby?
gotta work to play still,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I also
That-
enjoy what I do. So it's not, while I like to play, it's like I also enjoy the work.
Right, yeah, and that's always got to be a benefit too. You don't dread going back to work on Monday after a long weekend on the range.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, what do you have any specific goals set for you for nationals, or no?
I'm gonna say the same thing. Like, goal is to be 95% plus, right? Like, uh, that in terms of how we finish, from a skills perspective, like the thing that I grapple with the most is where I, where I am, where and how I dial up aggression. Um, and obviously, like, I've gone through phases where I was a turtle at first, but started out just by slaying points, and then I went the complete polar opposite when Ben gave me some specific feedback, and I played that game for a good year and a half, just shooting more on the wild man side of things, and uh, then started working that back, trying to find that middle ground. And now in open, I feel like it's that same. I feel the same way, like just trying to figure out where and how to be aggressive and where to apply like different styles of shooting and where we bring power, where we don't bring power, all while kind of learning to collect as much point percentage as you can. Like, the old what I used to hear, which is like C's are acceptable. Don't try to get all alpha. It's like obviously with the current crew of like top tier talent, Siler obviously representing that and shooting the best time, overall times at matches while collecting some of the best point percentages. Like, now we have to learn to be fast and collect all the points. So it's kind of playing that game with the different volume knobs that are available and all the different component sets is kind of uh, is where I'd say doing that effective, answering your question, doing that effectively at nationals while getting an overall result that I want is that's the goal.
Yeah, and he is a freaking beast for how young he is. Able to crush grown men's souls and and really show what he's capable of doing. Like he just won Carry Optics Nationals this weekend,
Yep.
and it was close going into the last day, and then he kind of just blew him out of the water. But
Yep.
he definitely had the room to make because that last zone they shot had all the points. It had all the rounds to be shot down range. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, I mean, again, his ability to be a beast on the ground and again while collecting more points than most of the other shooters out there is just incredible.
hmm so when you were coming up in the sport, what was like the biggest ideology or fundamental that you really it helped you grow in the sport? Like,
Never being complacent with kind of my grip and the system of how the gun is returning, back to my eyes. I feel like I was always generally pretty good at kind of innate return, and it's something that still to this day am think, asking myself, how can we refine this more? And obviously, then I feel like for me, the open gun has been a completely new system. But coming up, that was definitely, I think, what gave me an edge was once I developed kind of this just ability to have the gun automatically return instantly, like the connection, that mental connection to my eyes have confirmed that they see what they need to see, and kind of setting that trigger, like um that was never a problem for me. It was just getting it to return exactly how, better and in a better configuration, so that confirmation level was precisely what I wanted. um all was a result of just never being happy with, okay, we have a decent grip, but it can obviously be better, and always working to improve that is definitely what I think helped me come up quicker.
Hmm. Now, are you one to take video of yourself and then analyze it?
Yeah, I did that like a crazy person. My kind of those first 2.5 years. I mean, every range session, most dry fire, I was taking video and analyzing what I was doing, whether it was how my body was behaving, how the gun was behaving, um, what I was doing when I was moving, how I was moving, how just, yeah, I'd ask myself 10,000 questions. And then obviously PSTG was awesome for that too, just having other people look at that and provide additional feedback and pointing out things that I hadn't seen or hadn't asked myself questions about, which now I have that ability where I can, after I've shot, I know exactly what I've done and where I've done it, and then getting that same feedback from other people, training partners is also is also awesome. But yeah, I use video like a madman back,
Hmm.
when I was getting started.
Right. And I feel that some people put it more on just worry about the video for the gram instead of actually analyzing their video, it seems like, for the most part.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Like, you know, I don't the YouTube channel, or I have a YouTube, the YouTube channel is really for so that I could post things for PSTG, and like everything on there is pure analysis, my analysis of
Oh.
what I could do to improve on it and how I could improve on it. Same with like even Instagram. Like most of the videos I put are all critiques of what I've done. Like what is being shown in the video. I'm I'm rarely, if ever, positive with a result that I've had, just because I know I've high like expectations of what I know I should be doing, and when I don't execute to that, it's not negative. It's just, hey, even though that might be good, we can be better if we do these things. And so that's generally what I've always used those for, is an analysis and reflection.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, do you find it more beneficial for you to only have third person, or do you try to get first person?
I did the Instago hat cam thing for, I don't know, a hot 5 or 6 months, and I stopped. I haven't used it in maybe a full year, just because I wasn't really pulling value out of it. Like I wasn't able to really tell if I had looked and moved, or it was just like my hat jiggling around, and I felt it was causing me to spend too much time trying to like pick things apart, when I could generally just see that from third person videos. So now it's really just third person analysis that I rely on.
Right, and it's probably a lot easier. Oh crap, you forget your phone. Hey, somebody record this and then send it to me, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
And we're not all like David Blanton, who's got to have a million cameras on the stage. And
That whatever that panorama, like the one that takes video 360 degrees, that thing is pretty cool that he has.
yeah, it is pretty cool. And the nice thing is for him is he is a content creator and a shooter, so it gives him reasons to buy all the gizmos.
Yeah, great dude. He's a great dude for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely got that big dad energy though, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, he does. I like to rock out the shorty shorts with him for sure.
Yeah, well, and I even didn't even realize like he went to Area 4 a couple years ago and he dressed up as like the Ultimate Warrior and it was like hilarious. But
Yeah, he's a funny dude. He's a funny dude. Good guy to be around. Good guy to squad with.
yeah. Now, do you feel that you are the chase guy or you are the one chasing someone else during a match?
I always I prefer to be in the mentality of chasing. It puts me in a different mindset. Like even when I was a swimmer, kind of more at the top of the game, like I still had the chase mentality, and that prevents me from ever slipping into any kind of complacency. Now it goes the other direction. Like I know that you know if I go into a match with a specific like I'm going to work on this and that causes something else to fall off, well then it may devolve into okay, well it's that thing something did fall off. We're no longer in the hunt, and then I just will kind of enable wild man mode, which is a sometimes there's X factor there, and I can put something down that causes problems for other people, but that's not really putting you in contention for anything, right? So but when I go in, like, Area 4 and Dragons, where it's like, all right, we're here to execute at a known percentage of what our output is. We're going to stay on the rails. I feel like I'm able to do that very consistently when I do decide to do that, and being in that kind of chase mentality is also what keeps me mentally locked in.
Hmm. Now, with your last name being AC, you pretty much go first all the
Every
time.
time, yeah, whether it's first name, last name, I always win that game. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you are super strong on your getting your plan and sticking to it and executing it on that first stage?
Yes, my problem historically has been coming out too conservative, right? And so if the first stage is the big point stage, and I come out, with that, cool, we're warming up. Like, well, I may find myself already, you know, some percentage off on that stage. So Dragons was one of the first times where I found that right balance. Did the same at A4. So I feel like I'm getting better at that. But historically, that's been a weakness of mine. Like executing stage plans, not really the problem. It's just, am I being too conservative coming out the gate?
Hmm. Now, would that conservatism be eliminated a little bit if you every match had a warm up bay?
It's interesting. The first time I actually used a warm up, maybe this is me just not playing with this, was actually A4. Went and shot a big stick in the warm up bay, and I guess I don't know if that was really useful or not. I need to play with it more and actually like specifically pay attention to how I feel after that's happened going into the first stage. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think that the conservative nature is really a result if I haven't shot rounds. It's more like me testing myself to say, hey, how turned on are we? And should we be coming out at 98%, or do we need to be at 95? And oftentimes I just historically have opted for like that 95%, and when I probably didn't need to.
Hmm. Yeah. It, and I guess that's definitely a challenge for a lot of us is knowing about where to put the gas on or kind of put it on the coast mode, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But and it seems like people who then who go all the way on the gas, they throw the mics, they throw the no shoots, and then they're like, I've dug a hole deeper than I would have been if I was just conservative.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. It's kind of to me, it's more just being able to look at a stage and what it's requiring of you, and saying, okay, how comfortable do I feel with these stage elements? Where can I push? Where can't I? And kind of like parting out those pieces of the stage. And again, not just saying globally, cool, we're going to attack this entire stage. It's just, I'm going to attack this element and control. I'm going to attack this element and control, right? Um, I think that's the more nuanced side of that conversation.
Right. Yeah. And everyone I think needs to have that conversation with themselves and see how they want to attack every stage and figure that out for themselves. It seems like,
Yeah.
whatever works for them. And then, past experience is going to dictate future success, I think, at that point.
Yep. Definitely.
Now, I know we're getting near the end of our time here today. Let's see. Let me pull up the last set of questions. Oh, what are things that current Alex would like to tell past Alex about shooting?
Kronos. So definitely early on in the game, I, I try to muscle everything. It's very evident in my old videos. I feel like I had to pattern over all those kind of original behaviors and original kind of uh, techniques that I built on the gun, because I said I was definitely I definitely had that mindset of, well, if I just get stronger and I grip harder, everything's just going to become easier. When in actuality, like the more tension I introduce to the system, like now looking back, you can see the gun and how it like behaves, like doing this like little wave pattern, and all that takes then more time for my eyes to say, hey, we see the right thing, we don't see the right thing. I did that just for far too long, really until again, you know, had some professional instructors observe and say, hey, we need to approach this differently, right? And now, certainly, like we are talking about earlier, and having the ability to apply effort where effort is needed, and use less overall kind of percentage strength, whatever, it definitely makes everything easier. And I stay more relaxed. I don't feel my body getting tense. And so, yeah, like but that's also part of like the tactical shooter that I used to be, was like, we're going to look a certain way because that's what you saw on the internet. And yeah, a lot of, again, it's like how you, who you seek out information from. Like, I just didn't do a good job back then of identifying who the real, professionals were. And I think it's even a problem today. Like, if who has the most followers, it's not the best shooters. It's these celebrity celebrities, and or just kind of viral figures who have wackety techniques and gimmicks that they're just really good at marketing. When and I always use like Maria Kashina as an example. Like, you have all these shooters, and in the U.S., thankfully, people are becoming aware of like the Williams sisters, but like most people didn't know who Maria was for like the longest time, or even like an Eric Raffel. And it's like, these are the best shooters in the world. Like, how are we not aware of them? It's, well, because they're out there putting in the work, doing their thing. Um, so I just old out our new out our current office would have just said, hey man, we should do a better job of researching what's actually valuable information here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Instead of what's the best color multicam, or yeah,
Yeah.
or
Exactly.
or go down the rabbit hole. What's the best holster, or
Exactly.
yeah. Now, fair enough. That was a good question. I like that answer. Now, do you have any sponsors other than Visa, Mastercard, and American Express?
No, not at the moment. Sponsored by just working, and that's it, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair enough. I mean, not everyone's bougie like who all want sponsors. I mean, some days sometimes I'm just like, I wish I didn't have some of these responsibilities, these people, and just be like a goofball all the time. But
yeah,
it doesn't work like that for me at all anymore. But
no. And also, it's kind of hard for someone like me because, um, well, I've been approached for things in the past. Like, I'm not gonna, definitely never gonna shill anything, and I have to use the thing as well. Like,
mhm.
I have to know that it works, and that's beyond just like the company has to be something that deem worthy of being or representing, that you deem worthy of representing, and customer service, like all those things. And um, yeah, my probably stubbornness has probably precluded opportunities in the past.
You never know. But Alex, if people want to get a hold of you and talk to you about some shooting stuff, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram, Rogue Acosta. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody, and if you see me on the range anywhere, come up and chat. I'm always happy to talk and love having conversations. So yeah.
Mhm. Well, Alex, thank you, brother, for coming on. I've had a blast. We've learned a little about we've deep dived into your brain and how you think about things. So that's been always a cool one too. And I think the listeners will enjoy it as well.
Sweet, man. I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate the time this evening.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for your time. And listeners, until next time, get out and do the things. And I will see you on the next one.